What area of exam technique do you think is neglected the most?
I think the first thing that comes to mind is the difference between learning and studying. Where I think students now we know, and we've drummed into students that you should be doing questions. You have to do more practical questions. No, fine. But how you learn from those questions is still lacking. So what I find students do, again, especially because, accounting students are generally pretty good at retaining information.
Yeah.
Again, part of the personality trait is memory-based. There's a memory-based element. That your brain is not a dual-core processor. It can only do one thing at a time. And when you pick up information, either your brain is busy memorizing it or it's busy thinking about it. But it can't do both at the same time. So you've got to be really careful that your brain, when you absorb or you look at information, learning it is about thinking about it, and studying it is about memorizing it. So when students do questions, I tend to find that what they do is they don't think about the solution when they get the solution, or they go through, this is how I should have done it. They don't think about, why didn't I do it that way? What was the trigger? Where am I thinking? And etc. They study the solution. So it's almost like they bank a database, and by the time they're done, they have a database of like 10 solutions. If a question looks like this, then that's the solution. And if the question's got X, Y, Z in it, that's the solution. And so they go into the exam, more questions they do, the more database of solutions they have.
Yeah.
It doesn't actually mean that they've really unlocked why it works that way. So if I give them a completely different question based on the same concepts, they still fail because that question doesn't look like the others. So they don't know, of their bank of questions and solutions, they don't know which one to choose. So they either dump all of them in there or they're like, I'm just going to pick one and hope for the best, because they haven't actually worked on the problem solving skills. They just have a massive bank of answers and go, I'm going to pick you, like put you in there. So I think the difference between what studying is versus what learning is, we need to go beyond just telling students, you need to do more questions. They need to understand and learn how and what to do with those questions.
Very, very interesting, because what I see, Yvonne, is that, and linking this into mindset as well. So typical student that I would come across would do, for example, a past paper, and then they'll go and review the solution and then, I got that wrong. Let's bin that, or let's move on. Let's close the books. Let's go and watch TV.
Yeah.
So they try and compensate for it. But the sense of negativity comes in, and then they have to go and do something else to deflect from that.
Recover,
Where I say is this, right, if you're doing this question and you make a mess of it, that's actually really, really good.
Right.
Go in. And then I've coined the phrase for this, reverse engineering, and you reverse engineer it back to the question, asking those questions that you've just said. Why is this?
Yeah.
Why is that?
Yeah.
Why does that calculation happen like that? It prompts those questions then to go back and actually reverse it, because you're completely right. There are some topics you can rote learn. So if you've got an essay, you can regurgitate it. But if it's a calc question, you can't learn off a question. Like, you can't memorize a calc. You have to understand how.
Like auditing, for example, the next job you audit doesn't look like the last job you audit.
No, definitely not.
Obvious. So therefore, the next auditing question you do is not going to look like the last auditing question that you do. I really like that term, reverse engineering.